the call from the mystical realm, when desire becomes the veil over the soul's eyes. In the stillness between two breaths, something always silently calls to us from the unseen realm. It has no clear form, no distinct voice, yet it's ever present, like a mysterious bell ringing from the deepest layers of our being. Who am I when lost in carnal pleasure? What am I seeking behind each tremble of desire? These questions are not the product of intellect, but the voice of the soul, a pure, immortal part of us, always yearning to return to its sacred essence. Sexual desire by nature is not a sin. It is a part of our biological design and energy system, given by nature as a means to sustain life. The problem does not lie in its existence, but in how humans have placed desire at the center, worshipped it as a deity, lived to serve it, and traded their souls to satisfy it. When the sacred becomes an object of consumption, when creative energy is turned into entertainment, that is when collapse begins in the invisible realm. It is no coincidence that all major spiritual traditions in the world, from Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Zen, Taoism to Christianity, emphasize the need to control, transform, or transcend desire. Because desire, especially sexual desire, does not merely lead to actions, it opens a gateway to a powerful energetic field. And within that field, we either master and elevate the soul, or we are swept into a whirlpool of dark intensity. For centuries, modern humans have been disconnected from the sacred dimension of sexuality. They see it as an instinctual act, a form of entertainment, a product of hormones and biological mechanisms. But the truth runs deeper. Sex is an invisible ritual. Each physical union is a moment where energies collide, blend, and imprint upon each other. These imprints are not visible to the eye, yet they exist, like invisible threads linking two souls. If such union lacks awareness, the exchanged energy becomes chaotic, creating consequences far beyond conscious understanding. There is a strange phenomenon that many mystics have pointed out. After sexual gratification, many people fall into a state of emptiness. They do not understand why the feeling of satisfaction quickly turns into disconnection, alienation, and even melancholy. It is because in the moment of physical union without spiritual connection, they have given away not just their body, but a part of their life energy. And if the receiver is unaware, they unintentionally become an energy vampire, leaving the other in deep energetic imbalance. At the deeper level of reality, the universe doesn't operate through actions, but through energy and vibration. When two people engage sexually in a state of unconsciousness, they create a fracture in the energy field. Not a physical one, but a disruption in the soul's force field. This fracture, though invisible, makes one susceptible to lower vibrational energies, places where unrested souls linger, yearning to embody themselves through the sexual energies of the living. Sex without love and spiritual connection is like a wild wind sweeping away the self. It blurs the line between who I am and what I'm doing, causing the soul to drift from its true center. That is why, after many unspiritual relationships, people feel they have lost themselves. A nameless but haunting sense, like an invisible curse. That disconnection is the first and most obvious consequence of living in unrestrained desire. The soul begins to drift from the true self. Like someone drinking seawater to quench thirst, the more they drink, the thirstier they become. The deeper they dive in, the emptier they feel. Desire becomes an addiction, an invisible one, where the victim doesn't realize they are being controlled. Those on the spiritual path often experience a phase called the awakening of desire. Not a rejection of sex, but an honest confrontation with it as part of the inner shadow. They face old sexual memories, buried longings, childhood wounds, and repetitive unconscious patterns. In this brave confrontation, a door opens, leading them back to the soul's center, where sex is no longer instinct, but a channel of sacred creative energy. Thus, the call from the mystical realm does not condemn desire, but rings as a bell of awakening. Look again, understand deeply, transform. There is nothing wrong with the longing to connect through the body. The mistake lies in letting the body rule the soul, instead of allowing the soul to illuminate the body. When that order is reversed, the soul falls into darkness. But when the soul reclaims mastery and inner light guides desire, then desire becomes a companion, no longer a master. The source of sexual energy, creation or destruction. To understand the spiritual power and consequence of sexual desire, we must return to its origin, the root of sexual energy, where life begins and downfall arises. In its deepest essence, sex is not merely a tool for reproduction. It is the purest form of creative energy. This is the energy from which God, Brahman, or the divine consciousness, depending on spiritual language, created the universe. In the cosmology of Hinduism and ancient yoga, there lies a sacred energy coiled at the base of the spine, known as Kundalini Shakti, the dormant cosmic force. When awakened and guided through the chakras, this energy liberates the soul from rebirth and unites the practitioner with the Absolute. However, Kundalini cannot rise if it is imprisoned by primal lust. When a person lives only in the second chakra, Svadhisthana, near the genitals, they are caught in the vortex of pleasure, desire, and raw emotion. That is where sexuality resides. If the soul is trapped here, sexual energy cannot ascend. It stagnates, swirls, and becomes a downward force, weighing down consciousness, disorienting it, and leading to delusion. Untransformed sexual energy is sticky and magnetic. It easily entraps people in the illusion of union, when in fact it's mere physical collision. In the unawakened state, sex creates dependence. The soul, meant to be free and luminous, is dragged into fleeting sensations, losing the light of its true being. One may have hundreds of lustful encounters and still feel utterly alone, because the soul is not nourished by pleasure, but by true union. On the other hand, when sexual energy is redirected upward, it fuels artistic creation, compassion, wisdom, intuition, and universal love. Great artists, poets, and genius scientists often carry immense sexual energy, but instead of wasting it, they transmute it. They don't squander this power in fleeting moments, but gather, refine, and channel it into creations, discoveries, or deep meditation. In Zen and many esoteric schools, sex is viewed as a gateway, either leading to an abyss or opening to a transcendent world. When one makes love without presence, the soul dims like a candle blown by the wind. But when one acts with awareness, loving as a sacred ritual, each motion becomes an offering, each breath a step in raising consciousness. In such union, sex is no longer physical. It is a sacred rite between two souls. This is called sacred sexuality. In that state, Kundalini energy is not trapped in the sexual chakra, but rises through higher centers like the heart, Anahata, throat, Vishuddha, brow, Ajna, and finally the crown, Sahasrara, where the soul merges with the whole. Here, sex becomes a divine embodiment. But to reach this, discipline is required, spiritual training, a pure heart, and a lucid will. Thus, the ancients taught, desire is not the enemy, but a test. Those who pass enter the gate of freedom. Those who fail remain imprisoned in the cycle of craving. Desire becomes a problem only when it controls us. But when we master it, desire becomes the soul's messenger, reminding us that we are still alive, still vibrating, still capable of love. The question is, do we love with the body or with the soul? Indeed, sex is a double-edged sword. It can create life, but also destroy the soul. It can blossom the soul's garden or scorch its noble seeds. It all depends on how we wield it. In Jainism, spiritual masters practice extreme asceticism, refraining entirely from sex to preserve energy and purify consciousness. But in Tantra, masters use sexual energy as a tool for enlightenment, through sacred sexual rituals between practitioners. Two seemingly opposite paths, yet leading to the same goal: liberation from the slavery of desire. Serious practitioners know well, wasting sexual energy weakens intuition, clouds clarity, and damages the life field. But the gravest danger is not physical, it's the fracture of the soul. Each time we give in to blind desire, the soul drifts further from its source. Eventually, a person lives without truly being themselves, just a shadow that craves and chases sensation but has lost the divine light within. When we understand the origin of sexual energy, we begin to see sex through new eyes, as a cosmic force to be respected, mastered, and transmuted. Not repressed, not denied, but guided to its rightful place, like a powerful river flowing to the great sea, no longer muddy in the swamp of unconsciousness. The soul's deviation within desire. In the material world, every action leaves a visible consequence. But in the invisible realm where the soul resides, the consequences of desire are far deeper and more enduring. When one lives in a state of indulgent lust, their consciousness isn't just temporarily clouded. A silent yet dangerous deviation occurs. the soul begins to stray from its original essence, forgetting the path back to the light. The soul, if likened to a sacred compass, always points toward the inner north, where it connects to God, to the higher self. But overpowering desire distorts this magnetic field. Instead of moving toward awakening, the soul is pulled down into lower levels of consciousness, where sensations, pleasure, instincts, and ignorance dominate. Over time, a small deviation becomes complete disorientation. The soul no longer knows who it is, no longer hears the voice of truth. It wanders like a drowsy child lost in the forest of desire. Sexual desire is a peculiar kind of sorcery. It does not only stir emotion, it stirs memory. It resurrects old wounds, unfulfilled longings, and incomplete dreams of love from past lives. That's why when desire intensifies, we are not merely responding to the present. We are trying to make up for losses the soul once suffered. But this compensation does not bring peace. No physical pleasure can fill the void of the soul. It's like drinking salt water to quench thirst. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. When someone lives in prolonged lust, they begin to lose spiritual sensitivity. They can no longer feel light, serenity, or deep trust from within. They need constant stimulation, sex, images, fantasies to feel alive. But in truth, their vibration is weakening. They no longer resonate with the higher frequencies of the universe, where elevation, unconditional love, gratitude, and divine connection dwell. Instead, they absorb only the lower frequencies: fear, jealousy, possessiveness, addiction, and doubt. This vibration decline makes the soul heavy, sluggish, and dim. A heavy soul cannot rise. It remains stuck in the lower realms, where incomplete energies reside. And in this state, people become vulnerable to invisible entities, the lingering ghosts of unliberated desire. This is not spiritual superstition, but a truth acknowledged by awakened masters across traditions. Those addicted to sex, especially when lacking love or consciousness, often describe a feeling of emptiness, sadness, or anxiety after intimacy. Some even say they feel drained, disconnected, or no longer wish to live. These symptoms are the soul's response to physical action. It seems to whisper, "This is not my path. This is not true nourishment." Unconscious sex also erodes the ability to love genuinely. When carnal desire dominates, we no longer see the soul in the other, only the body, the role, the function. Relationships become mechanical, utilitarian. Love, the sacred light that connects souls, is replaced by an invisible contract between those using each other's bodies to ease inner emptiness. The soul's deviation is also evident in this. We forget our existential purpose. No longer do we yearn for truth, nor seek deep self-discovery. Our pursuits become shallow, chasing sensations, seeking approval, finding someone to fill the void inside. But the truth is, no one can complete anyone else. Only when the soul remembers its way home does true wholeness begin. In ancient Tibetan monasteries, the lamas used to say, "Desire is the thickest cloud covering the moon of wisdom. When the cloud clears, the moon appears, but when it lingers, we forget there was ever a moon." Likewise, when desire veils the soul too long, we forget there's light inside. We live like shadows, moving, seeking, satisfying, but forgetting that we were once divine. Deviation does not happen overnight. It starts with one unmindful indulgence, then another. Then it becomes habit, then mindset, then nature, until the soul no longer remembers who it is. And when death comes, it carries a lost soul, reborn into another life to repeat the cycle: craving, gratification, emptiness, searching, craving. The good news is, the soul can always return. It only takes one moment of awakening, one pause to ask, what am I really seeking in the other? If the answer is only the body sensation, then that is a sign the soul is lost. But if we see the other as a sacred part of the universe, as a torch to help illuminate our return, then sex becomes an offering, not possession. When the soul reclaims mastery, desire becomes a powerful horse serving the journey of awakening. But when the soul relinquishes the lead, desire becomes a serpent, coiling, tightening, dimming the sacred light. That is the choice each person must make, not once, but in every living moment. Karmic bonds from desire. No action in the universe is random or without trace. Every thought, word, and deed, no matter how hidden, plants a seed in the invisible energy field surrounding the soul. That seed may sleep for a while, but when the time comes, it sprouts and bears fruit, called karma. And among all types of karma, karmic desire, the invisible consequences of sexual craving, is one of the strongest and most complex ties. At the soul's deepest level, sex is not merely a physical union, it is an energetic contract. When two people engage in sex, they exchange not only bodies but energy fields, emotions, memories, and sometimes even fears and karmic burdens. Each act forms an invisible cord, a karmic tie. This cord doesn't sever with a breakup. It lingers, quiet, persistent, stretching across lifetimes until both souls have learned the lesson the bond came to teach. Have you ever wondered why some relationships are impossible to leave? Even when harmful or painful, you feel magnetically pulled back. Perhaps it's unfinished karmic desire. The soul hasn't learned the lesson and is pulled to return, not to indulge, but to understand, not to repeat, but to transcend. In many esoteric traditions, such intense but painful bonds are called karmic knots, tangled energies formed from unawakened desire. Each time lust leads action without real love or consciousness, a knot is tied. The soul, instead of soaring freely toward light, is pulled into the other's energy field, sometimes as clinging, sometimes as revenge, sometimes as unconscious obsession. All are signs of unresolved karma. Sex imprints a karmic trace on the soul, not just through action, but through accompanying emotion. If the encounter involves fear, resentment, deception, coercion, or avoidance, those emotions sink deep into the energy body. The soul carries them like an ink stain that won't wash. That's why many, even after new beginnings, still feel haunted by past lovers, old emotions, old wounds. Not because they're weak, but because the karmic trace hasn't been cleansed. Spiritual masters often remind us, desire doesn't just create pleasure, it creates debt. That debt may not surface immediately, but it collects interest and arrives when the soul is weakest, when disoriented, when seeking love, when opening up. Karmic relationships often appear swiftly, intensely, emotionally, and chaotically. Because they are soul classrooms. In them there are no rewards, only lessons. So what's the solution? Not to flee from sex or love, but to live consciously with them. To understand that every connection leaves an energetic consequence. To be aware that no pleasure is free. Every time we indulge without awareness, we tighten the cord. Every time desire leads without the heart's presence, we sow more karma. In meditation traditions, there's a practice of contemplating the consequences of desire. Before being swept away, the practitioner pauses and asks, if I do this, will my soul rise or fall? Am I moving toward union or trying to cover up emptiness? Am I truly connecting with this person or just using them to forget myself? These questions, though painful, are the antidote to karma. And so some souls choose spiritual solitude, not out of fear of sex, but because they have passed through lifetimes laden with karmic desire. They need time to retract their cords, purify their imprints, and restore inner light. They choose meditation over pursuit. They choose solitude over fleeting bonds. Not because they are cold, but because they know only a free soul can love truly. Indeed, karmic desire is not a curse, but a call to awaken. It binds no one who's ready to learn. When the soul understands, releases, and forgives both self and other, the cord dissolves. No need to fight, no need to deny. Only light is needed, deep presence to see the truth. And when that happens, people begin to live differently. They no longer enter relationships from loneliness or lust. They enter through light, through unconditional love, through the realization, I don't need someone to complete me. I only need someone to rise with, like two free souls walking side by side. Karmic bonds from desire. There is no action in the universe that is random or without trace. Every thought, word, and deed, no matter how subtle, plants a seed in the invisible energy field surrounding each soul. That seed may lie dormant for a while, but at the right time it sprouts and bears fruit. This is karma. And among all forms of karma, karmic desire, the unseen consequences of sexual craving, is one of the strongest and most complex bonds. At the soul's deepest level, sex is not just physical union, it is an energetic contract. When two people engage sexually, they exchange not only bodies but also energy fields, emotions, memories, and sometimes even fears and karmic burdens. Each act forms an invisible thread, a karmic tie. This thread doesn't snap with a breakup, it lingers, subtle, persistent, and stretching across lifetimes, until both souls have learned the lesson brought by that connection. Have you ever wondered why some relationships feel impossible to end? Even knowing they bring harm and suffering, you feel drawn back like under a spell? Perhaps it's unfinished karmic desire. The soul hasn't yet resolved the lesson, so it's compelled to return, not to indulge, but to understand, not to repeat, but to transcend. In many mystical traditions, such deep yet painful ties are known as karmic knots, energetic tangles formed by unconscious desire. Each time lust drives action without real love or presence, a knot is formed. Instead of flying lightly toward the light, the soul is bound tightly to the other's energy field, sometimes through attachment, sometimes through revenge, sometimes through unconscious obsession. All are signs of unresolved karma. Sex leaves karmic imprints on the soul, not just through the act itself, but through the emotions it carries. If sex happens with fear, resentment, deception, coercion, or avoidance, those emotions sink into the energy field. The soul carries them like a stain that cannot be erased. That's why many people, even after starting a new life, still feel haunted by past lovers, past emotions, old wounds. It's not weakness, it's unresolved karmic residue. Spiritual masters often remind us, desire doesn't only produce pleasure, it also generates karmic debt. This debt doesn't surface immediately, but will be claimed at the soul's weakest moment, when disoriented, when seeking love, when opening the heart. Karmic relationships often arrive quickly, intensely, emotionally, but also chaotically, because they are soul classrooms. In them, there are no rewards, only lessons. So what is the solution? Not to flee from sex or love, but to live consciously with them. To recognize that every connection has energetic consequences. To understand that no moment of pleasure is truly free. Each unconscious indulgence tightens the cord. Each desire without a conscious heart adds to the karma. In meditative traditions, there is a practice of contemplating the consequences of sexual acts. Before being swept away by desire, the practitioner pauses to ask, if I do this, will my soul be lifted or dragged down? Am I moving toward union or trying to cover emptiness? Am I truly connecting with this person or merely using them to forget myself? These questions, though painful, are the antidote to karma. And then there are souls who choose spiritual solitude, not out of fear of sex, but because they've lived many lives burdened with karmic desire. They need time to retract the ties, purify the imprints, and restore their inner light. They choose meditation over searching. They choose solitude over fleeting bonds. Not because they are cold, but because they know only a free soul can truly love. Indeed, karmic desire is not a curse, it is a call to awakening. It binds no one who has learned their lesson. When the soul understands, releases, and forgives, both self and other, the tie dissolves naturally. No battle needed, no denial necessary. Only the light of understanding, only deep presence to see the truth. And in that moment, people begin to live differently. They no longer enter relationships out of loneliness or lust. They enter with light, with unconditional love, with the realization, I don't need someone to complete me. I only need someone to rise with, as two free souls walking together, wandering souls in the realm of desire. There exists a shadowy realm between the world of the living and the higher planes of liberated souls, a place where those still trapped by unresolved desire wander. This is the realm of desire, a low vibrational layer in the metaphysical structure of the universe, where unpurified longing holds souls in a fog of yearning, unable to release despite no longer having a body. In Eastern and Western esoteric traditions, the desire realm is described as a thick, energetic field where souls still cling to physicality, bound by unfulfilled cravings from life. They are too heavy to ascend into the light, but no longer belong to the physical world. They linger in a border zone, close to the living, yet far from divine illumination. What keeps them here is unresolved desire. These souls are not ghosts in the folklore sense, but energetic entities carrying vibrations of craving, regret, anger, or bodily lust. They can no longer experience desire directly, but they feed on the energy of the living, especially those who live in intense, unconscious desire. When someone is energetically weakened, they become an opening through which these wandering entities can attach, influence, or even subtly invade the energy field. You may have heard the saying, some desires are not your own, they belong to someone else borrowing your body to experience them. From a metaphysical standpoint, this is quite valid. Some people suddenly become addicted to sex, to masturbation, or to distorted behaviors they themselves don't understand. They feel out of control, as if an invisible force is driving them. In truth, desire-bound souls may be possessing the living, creating cravings that don't truly belong to them. This happens most intensely when someone is energetically vulnerable. After grief, during depression, in mental fragmentation, or while engaging in compulsive unconscious sex. In those moments, the energetic shell protecting the soul thins, and in that fragile space, infiltration can occur. Of course, this is not demonic possession as horror films depict. It's subtler, gentler, like a thin mist wrapping around the mind, whispering unfamiliar urges. Many spiritual practitioners have reported seeing desire spirits clinging to the living. They often appear around the pelvic area, the seat of the sexual chakra. They don't take full human form but appear as active energy clusters, pulsating, dark gray or reddish in color. When the living engage in unmindful sex, these spirits feed off the act, recharged and sustained. This is why many feel drained, empty, or vaguely uneasy after such encounters. In Taoist and Tantric purification rituals, there are specific techniques to sever invisible cords connecting to desire-bound spirits. These include cleansing the Svadhisthana chakra or clearing the sexual energy imprint. The goal is not to eliminate desire, but to liberate the soul from hidden influences, from within, old memories and wounds, and from without, wandering spirits. Advanced practitioners engage in sex with absolute mindfulness, not just to preserve energy, but to avoid connection with lower realms. They create energetic protection fields before any physical act. To them, sex is not a pleasure, but a sacred ritual, where both souls are uplifted rather than dragged down. Sadly, most of humanity lives the opposite way, using sex as anesthesia rather than a tool of liberation. And the consequence? A world full of souls who can't find the exit. Invisible addictions passed down generations. Children haunted by karmas of their parents. Young souls lured into sexuality before they understand the nature of light and shadow. The realm of desire is not a realm of the dead, it is a realm of lost direction. It is where souls forget their way home, bound by the invisible thread of unmet sensations. They are not evil. They are simply sad, simply tired. They need guidance. But so they don't lead us astray, we, the living, must anchor our inner light, remain mindful in every breath, every action, especially in sex. And so, if you ever feel overwhelming desires you cannot explain, pause, take a deep breath, ask yourself, is this truly me? If anything feels unclear, meditate, call on the light, cut the cord, purify. For your soul meant for the light should not dwell in the shadows of unresolved desire. The journey of breaking free from the chains of desire. Every soul on earth walks with two choices, to live as a thinking body or as a soul in embodiment. Along this path, desire is the test, harsh yet magnificent, to measure our strength, wisdom, and inner light. It is both a prison and a door. It can drag the soul into darkness, but if transformed, it can also become a staircase leading us back to the realm of absolute light. Liberation from desire does not mean rejecting sexuality. Avoidance, repression, or denial are merely other forms of fear, and fear never leads to freedom. The true journey begins with deep understanding, followed by mindfulness, and ultimately transformation. The first step is to face desire directly, without judgment, without glorifying, without avoidance. We must understand, desire is part of the biological and energetic makeup of a human being. It was born to sustain life, but without the light of spiritual awareness to guide it, it easily becomes a force that dominates our decisions and turns the soul into a servant of the body. Once desire is clearly recognized, the next step is mindfulness within each craving. Whenever a sensation arises, do not rush to act. Pause. Take a deep breath. Observe the sensation like a cloud drifting by. No attachment, no rejection. Just presence, just breath, just watching. Over time you will see, it is not desire that controls you, but you who can master it. Mindfulness breaks the automatic nature of desire. It turns an instinctual reflex into a conscious choice. And from there we move into the third phase, transforming sexual energy. What is transformation? It is the act of directing sexual energy from its instinctual form toward the higher centers of the soul. It is using that energy as fuel to nourish creativity, meditation, compassion, gratitude, and wisdom. In yoga and tantra, this is known as the process of raising kundalini, the serpent of energy, from the root chakra to the crown. This transformation practice requires discipline. One can start with simple exercises such as energy retention. Instead of releasing energy through ejaculation or orgasm every time, learn to preserve it within the body, brahmacharya in yoga. For both men and women, retaining sexual energy helps raise vibrational frequency, nourish the body's tissues, and enhance intuition. Deep breathing and meditation. When desire rises, instead of escaping or surrendering, breathe deeply, sit in meditation, and bring your focus to the heart or the crown of the head. Visualize sexual energy as a stream of light rising, nourishing the whole body. Artistic creation. Painting, writing, singing, playing music. These are all forms of transforming sexual energy. Many artistic geniuses carried intense sexual energy, but they knew how to channel it into their work instead of wasting it on fleeting pleasures. Loving unconditionally. When you love someone not to possess, not for pleasure, but for the light in their soul, then sexual energy is elevated to heart energy, anahata. This is the love of saints, a love that heals both the lover and the beloved. One of the highest levels of transformation is sacred sexuality. In this state, sex is no longer an instinctual act, but a sacred ritual, where two souls unite not just through bodies, but through energy, mind, and spirit. Those who practice sacred sexuality often describe sensations of rising, chakra activation, oneness with the universe after union. It is not sex, it is meditation through union. However, it must be said, sacred sexuality is not the goal for everyone. Not everyone has a spiritually aligned partner. In many cases, what is more essential is a period of conscious solitude, to purify, to heal, and to reconnect with the inner light. Just as a lamp must be extinguished to refill its oil, sometimes the soul needs solitude to learn mastery. And whether you are in a relationship or on your own, the most important thing remains: return to your essence. Whether you engage in sex, take vows of celibacy, walk alone, or love deeply, if you do not return inward, if you do not connect with your inner light, every act remains surface level. But if you live mindfully, then sex will no longer be a chain, it will become your wings. On the journey of overcoming desire, you will stumble. There will be moments of weakness, moments of confusion. But remember, light never disappears. It is only obscured, and you, and no one else, are the one holding the lamp. Every time you choose awareness over instinct, love over possession, meditation over surrender, that light grows a little brighter.